Greetings, heroes and Force users. Welcome back to Inside the Tauntaun, a podcast in the multiverse of fandom. I'm Alyssa Simmons, and I'm joined today by my two pals, Dino Nicandros.
Hello.
And Daniel Dawson.
Hello there.
And today we are talking episodes 4 and 5 of the Disney Plus Marvel series Loki. This is Heart of the TVA and science/fiction. And by God, we're Marvel fans.
I don't know who you are or where you came from.
I am Iron
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Smells like a new car in here.
Inside the Tauntaun, this is our opening song. Alyssa, Daniel, Dino, talking nerd stuff, come along. Inside the Tauntaun podcast, please like and subscribe.
Hello, you two.
Hello. Our podcast is for all ages.
No, it's not.
It
It's
really
not
is.
because you're in it. and that is literally, you are the reason that we have the explicit rating on iTunes.
There is no chance.
There's
so
no
funny.
way. There's way too much talk of stuff that's not.
It's
kids
hilarious because I
times.
say I have a Twitch channel, but because I do, but I haven't actually tweeted. I haven't tweeted in a long time. But needless to say, I have like the warning. Like I'm like, don't come here because it's gonna be naughty.
Yeah.
And like most of the people that watch are like 13, 14.
Why?
I know. I mean, you know,
What could they learn from that?
They nothing for sure. They're not.
They're there
learning.
for the
What they
fart
are learning,
and they're for the fart and poop content purely.
They're learning that they really enjoy. They have some weird fetish with fart noises.
Oh boy.
We are discovering, anyways. So that's what this podcast is going to be about today, everyone.
Well, we picked a hell of a 2 episodes to...
Oh my gosh.
you guys ruined my life. I wasn't the. I would seriously. These
There
two
was
episodes,
literally no way for us to meet last week, so
No,
this
it
is
was
what's
not.
happening this week.
This is happening, and we are reaping what we sow. It wow, holy cow, like we should have known this was coming because last season was exactly the same. I was literally blown away by the episode 4 of season 1, and I guess they're using the same equation for this season because whoa,
and
4 and 5.
It be a working.
Yeah. So I guess those are our generals. We can
Yeah,
just
do we
skip
feel-
right on.
Do we feel like Marvel is back, baby, or is this kind of like
I mean, Loki is back, baby. I can't
Yeah, I
speak
was
for the
gonna
rest
say.
of Marvel.
Marvel?
There was a not so flattering Variety article.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw that.
We won't waste time on it, but if you want to go hunt it down, talking about kind of the state of things, never mind an actor's strike.
Oh, never mind.
But beyond
Never mind.
that,
Before we get too far into this episode, did y'all watch the Echo trailer?
Echo? No, there's an Echo
I haven't
trailer.
watched
Oh my god, I'm such a bad.
came out today.
Came out today.
I'm been
How's it
so
looking?
busy today.
It looks good. It looks scary. It looks
Good?
It looks very violent.
Okay.
So
Great.
I
No,
guess that's
scary
good
because
for
you
some people.
because you don't like violence, or like it's like in a like. Spooky,
No, it
there's-
just looks like.
There's
I mean, it looks like
witches!
just really violent and dark subject matter.
Excellent.
It's like scary like that. So,
Excellent.
I mean,
Violent.
I don't know how much it will be because it's a Disney Plus series.
Sure.
But
Right.
yeah, it feels
Violent deaf
very much so
people.
in the style and flavor of Daredevil. So,
Cool. Very cool.
yeah, but I guess we really need to talk about these episodes because we are on a
yeah.
bit of a time crunch today as well.
Oh my god! Like, where do you even start? Should we just start with episode 4 and work our way over there? Because, or I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, so episode 4, well, really any adjective used for episode 4 can also be used for episode 5, but
Yeah.
I suppose. I mean, they're both very different vibes.
They were different vibes, but in terms of pacing, this show is very frenetic. And,
Yes.
And it now feels
And somehow more so than last season, I feel.
very much, yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels
yeah.
like we're barreling towards oblivion here.
Well,
Well,
I
it
think
feels like we've already passed
first
Oblivion.
First season, there was just like they did such an amazing job at like laying the groundwork for all of us being like, "What the all the time," and like this season is that, but also like I don't know, like particularly in episode 5, like I'm skipping all over the place, but
Skip them
in
my darling.
episode 5, you know, when Sylvie and Loki had that bar scene, and she ultimately was like, "Okay, but what is it that you want?"
What do you want?
Which I think is a fascinating place for us to be with Loki, because we've never had any sort of relationship like that to that character.
Yeah. It was a very what's the word? Like, it was a very relatable conversation, because it's not just Loki. I think a lot of us get caught up in that same thing. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it just feels like the stakes feel really, really high for me.
Yeah,
I feel really scared for the state of things.
I'm scared. Yeah, it honestly, it like, I mean, everything put together, the music, the editing, the build up, the acting, all of it does feel very threatening. Yeah.
And I like that, and you would think it would be obvious, but it hasn't been in shows
It was obvious
like
to
this,
me.
where the character's name is the title of the show, but this show really is about Loki. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
And considering how much is going on around him and the scale of the problem, and its implications for the larger Marvel universe, episode 4 in particular, episode 5 in particular, but episode 4 did it a little bit too. There's a conversation I want to touch on, but episode 5 boiled down all of it to, as you just said, Alyssa, what does Loki really want? And he comes up with all of these, you know, side excuses for doing what he wants to do. But at the end of the day, all he wants is companionship.
He wants
and going back to the first time Loki was introduced in Thor in 2011, all he wanted was true acceptance from his dad,
from his daddy,
and from his brother, and he did get it from his mother, but he's been searching for that and can kind of explain some of the, if not all of the chaotic behavior we've come to know him for. But I think I made a point a couple episodes back about wishing we'd see chaotic Loki back at some point.
Yeah.
If not downright bad, just, you know, chaotic. But I do appreciate that if you're going to go down this road, that you're going to end up giving him the nice arc from the very beginning.
Yeah, well, I think it's like, you know, a lot of people have that issue with the show. They're like, but he's a villain, and it's like, yeah, okay, sure, but like this Loki, the one that we know that we've been following in this series, his time, like his life on an actual timeline, it's gone. He's dead. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So like the idea that he would just like function in a place that doesn't, like, where time doesn't operate the same way, where he has all these different relationships that he's never had on an actual timeline, the idea that he would just like be a villain still, that seems silly to me. Like that doesn't make too much sense. Are there times where he's going to be mischievous and do things that are maybe not, like, you know, neutral good or like just full-blown good? Yeah, of course, because he's Loki. But yeah, it's fascinating.
It's fascinating. Although we did find out in this episode, the most recent one, that it is potentially possible for each of them. Well, not in the current state of the multiverse, but like the idea is there that they might be able to go back to their branched timelines and live out their lives. You know, of course, it would be very different.
Of course, that kind of all got thrown up in the air now that like the timeline that Sylvie was on started spaghettifying.
Right. Yes. I actually did.
Yes.
I did want to talk about that though, because like, let's pretend that the spaghettifying like isn't a thing. It's not happening. Mm-hmm. So like we put, the second that you take out a person from that timeline, it at least in my head, it creates yet another branched timeline where that person doesn't exist there anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So that's why, just for everyone's heads, if you go back to the very first episode of Loki, when he has the Tesseract and he transports himself to where he ends up.
Yeah.
When the TVA shows up
and bombs the place
to clip that timeline. But yes, you're correct.
Yeah, right. So now that doesn't exist. We don't have like timeline bombers anymore. Right. So if you're put back into the timeline, like exactly where you were taken out, mm-hmm. Are you back on the same timeline, or is that now you've created yet another branched timeline? Because technically, like, especially if you've been gone as long as Loki has now in our, the one that we're watching currently, he's like a changed man. So he's not really following what original Loki probably would have done in that timeline. So like, right? Like, wouldn't that be like a completely different thing?
Maybe. I don't know how to answer you in a way that
I know this show, but that's part of what I love about this show is that it really does make me like have very existential, weird thoughts.
I think that I stopped asking the question that you just asked when I saw Sylvie's like all the branches are breaking.
Yes,
right. They're all like something, regardless of temporal pads and the time doors and people being pulled out of their specific lives and stuff, like obviously like all hell is breaking loose. Like it's like, and so I guess I stop asking those questions when I'm like, okay, now we're being presented with even more conflict and even more like they don't know. Like you said before, usually when someone gets pulled out of their timeline, like it creates another branch.
Right.
And so on and so forth. But yeah, the spaghettifying thing is happening. So
it kind of runs tangentially to what you just asked, Daniel. But the conversation I found super interesting in episode 4 was when Loki and Sylvie were talking once again, and Loki raised the point that if we give people free will, we can't just abandon them. And Sylvie takes very much the anarchy standpoint of
chaotic Loki choice.
Right. Just let people
she's
do
like,
what
no,
they're going to do.
that's what it is. That's what free will is.
Yeah.
They get to do that.
But interesting that Loki is I don't know, I felt for a moment like you're getting the benevolent Loki here, but also really what, and Sylvie raises this point, really what he's asking for is power over the TVA and power, generally speaking, over everybody's existence. And she, I thought it was a great line.
I'll do it in a good way.
She's like,
that would still,
it sounds like
what
you're playing
asking
God.
For is you're
and
playing
goes,
God. Yeah.
That's what we are.
Oh my God. I don't know if you also said it, but I literally said the words out loud before he said it. Because it was so beautifully written that it was like he's like, he's like, we are God. So I was like, yeah, that's exactly what you were going to say. I was like, that's how you know it's good writing. Well, maybe not always if it's like super predictable, but because we know this character so well that you're like, yeah, that's exactly what he would say.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah,
his,
I also love that conversation too.
His desire to help people in this case still kind of puts him in the camp of where Loki was in 2012, where he said,
Yeah.
"I want,
very, very
your
gray
freedom."
area.
I remember him telling those people in Germany when he shows up. He's like, "Your freedom is a lie. Like your free will is a lie." And I was sitting there going, "Okay, it's interesting. We're still kind of ending up in the same spot. Although I will say, episode 5 does give some necessary context in that he's just lonely as hell.
Yeah,
This-
he's lonely.
This gives him a purpose of sorts. But
Poor guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and God, what was I gonna say? I don't know. Probably wasn't very poignant at all.
How surprised were you? How many of our supporting characters died in episode 4?
I was
whoa.
like, whoa.
What?
What? The scene in the interrogation room.
oh god,
Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna kind of maybe pat myself on the back for a little bit because
Better not.
I think when we were
I'll be
talking,
the judge
I'm not
of
gonna, because we were talking about the interrogation room and why there was grating on the floor,
Oh, so they could just
it's
ooze
easier
down
to
there.
clean. Ugh. I can't.
I was like,
literally
holy crap,
grabbed my
docs?
face and
Brad going to the dark side and then almost immediately going bye-bye.
that scene was riveting.
Ravona, what?
Yeah,
And
and
Miss
bitch,
Minutes?
that bitch Miss Minutes enjoying every minute
that
of it.
fucking bitch.
She's nuts.
Oh, yeesh.
Oh my gosh. Hey,
I
listen,
genuinely, I feel like all of episode 4.
This is the writer's very subtle but not so subtle way of telling us the fears of letting AI run rampant, because that's kind of what's happening in the writing world right now. So we gotta be careful.
Which is, I mean, if you wanted to dig deep, what is at the cornerstone of the strike currently, or one of the
That's what I mean.
cornerstones
Yeah,
is being replaced by
AI. So this is where we are headed for a Miss Minutes timeline.
Miss Minutes is running the AMPTP.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's
Right next to.
that's accurate.
Oh my god! Right next to.
But we were kind of correct on what we thought Miss Minutes would tell Ravona.
Yes.
That pays off almost immediately, and that it did. There was a relationship of sorts with.
They built everything together, and then
remains,
he
and then
frickin' wiped her.
And what's becoming very clear, especially in episode 4, is that I'm not going to say that every king is like this, but it sounds like the original kings were. I think that I'm kind of calling it now. I think that this is going to be a commonality between all of the kings, is that
Yeah,
they
we had
are
asked that question. If
there are commonalities between all of them, I think that they're all going to be coattail writers. I think that they're all going to be they're smart people, but I think that they're smart in the sense that they're able to swindle and snake their way. I think that they use people to get what they want. So they're not as smart and wonderful as they may come off. If you're meeting them way down in the timeline and where they're already really powerful, I think it's becoming clear that the way that they got there was by taking credit for other people's.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at all the kings we've met so far, right? We've got He Who Remains from the first season of Loki, which we didn't see too much of, but we know that he used Ravona,
right,
to get what he wanted,
and potentially
and Miss Minutes,
and also OB. It feels like OB is the original creator of the TVA. I really don't think that Kang did anything. I think he stepped in and for lack of a better term, kind of trumped everything. You know what I mean? It was just I'm just I run this. Only I can fix this. and just took it over and then erased everybody's memory. It's like, oh yeah, I did this. This was my work. I was the one who created it. And they're like, sure.
Yeah. And then we've got the Kang from Ant-Man, who was unable to fix his time sphere and actually do what he needed to do to achieve what he wanted. So he needed the Pims. And the Pims. And then, I mean, even Victor Timely.
Right.
Like,
knows nothing.
Well, and it's not a stretch to imagine that, assuming Prime Kang is still ahead of us, or any other of the variants, if they were to tie them into the Reed Richards family, which is what would be really one of the character's origins, that's another example potentially of either being lucky or being
a little nepotism or something.
Master manipulator.
Yeah.
Able to ultimately get what he wants.
What a dick.
Yeah, he's bad. He's bad news.
It makes you don't like him much more. People that use people. It's not fun. Not fun people. But yeah, that I think that was probably one of the most I'm sorry, going back to the interrogation scene, just just to put a button on it for me, I think it, to me, it was one of the most surprising and maybe most brave thing that Disney Plus has done so far to murder everybody. I know that they didn't show anything, but that was almost worse, in a way. Because you're just hearing all the dripping noises and it was horrific. It was surprisingly it was,
and then when B12 comes into the room.
Oh my God. Just seeing her look on her face. She played that really well, I thought.
Yeah. Now, do we think at this point do we put Ravonna in the category of
evil villain?
Past the point of no return?
I mean, in a sense, I think we've talked about this kind of arc before, where they may be past the point of being part of society. But it doesn't mean that they can
Can't be useful.
Yeah. I think that there could be a world where she does turn against Miss Minutes and because I think that they're kind of building towards that, because there obviously
that's not stable.
There's no way that that's going to work out between the two of them. So I think that she could be redeemed in a sense, but not fully. There's just no way.
Yeah.
While it was wild to see who pruned Loki in that elevator moment.
Yes.
I
don't know why I was so surprised by it, because it makes all the sense.
I think it's because in the time slipping that we had seen prior to these two episodes, we hadn't seen two Lokis.
Correct. Yeah,
do you know what I mean? We've only
with that.
You hadn't seen that. You just seen the time slipping Loki, not time slipping Loki and seeing himself.
I think we even asked that question too.
Last time I think we asked so when he time slips, is that
could
him?
He time slip to himself and say, "Hi, how are you?" I think we thought our thought was that it couldn't happen that way, but we were wrong.
We
or at least
were
I was
wrong.
Yeah.
Well, and just the very nature of his time slipping now, as we discover in episode 5, that
what the hell?
Who.
Yeah, right.
We're
having this kind of weird meta conversation where it feels very artsy fartsy, but because we're and I think it's smart because the writer's we can't explain this scientifically.
I love that they give OB the chance to kind of make it clear as mud.
You're right.
It's by scientific standards that's impossible.
Yeah.
But that means it's possible from it's finding the possible within the impossible.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's no better actor to have explained it as well as he did.
It's just so matter of fact.
So matter of fact and so
Well,
bright-eyed and
and-
bushy-tailed. Like, yeah, it's like this.
And
we're
it's
like,
so
"Wha-"
funny too when Loki thinks that he's finally understood something, and Obi
Yes.
is like, "No,
No. Yeah, that's not it.
certainly not."
I actually laughed out loud numerous times during his entire explanation, quote unquote, of everything.
Well, and you can tell that the OB we meet in the OB we meet in Pasadena in 1994 is absolutely destined to create the TVA, mostly because everything Loki explains to him, while he doesn't have the technical wherewithal to do anything with that information immediately, he doesn't question any of it. He's like, I've been waiting for this moment for...
Yeah. But he is a physicist.
Yeah, no,
so
absolutely.
He was on his way, potentially.
But,
and not to mention his entire like abandoned place that he's working in is like an exact replica almost of where he works in the TVA.
Right.
Like structurally, I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, not to mention the giant mess too. So I mean, he's like, I think when he got to the TVA, he's like, I'm gonna make this look like home.
But you're right. It is quite metaphysical,
right?
And they took great pains to create the distinction between science and...
Yeah, that was so fun, and like, just what a creative way to be like bare bones, like someone whose brain is able to think both of those ways.
Mm-hmm.
What did he say? Science is the what and how.
Oh yeah,
And fiction is the
who.
The
who.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
All the
super
who's
super
down in
clever.
Whoville.
Let's see, anything else we need to chat about from episode
Well, so
4 specifically?
because of how episode 4 left us going into episode 5, the loom exploding.
Oh my
and
God.
killing everybody.
I was like, where do they go from here at this point?
Well,
I am curious where you thought it was going to go.
I wasn't surprised that, just by nature of there was 2 episodes following that. So I was like, well, they're not dead. Maybe they returned
Right.
to their timelines, or some alternate versions of them would have to be convinced of all of this. But I'm curious, and I
had
guess
some
episode
really
5
crazy
did.
theories.
Episode 5 did answer this question, so asking it is kind of null and void at this point. But I am curious if that is the end of Victor Timely, or if he's going to be useful going forward. But now we know that Loki
Comes back.
time slipped back to that moment, or just before that moment.
I think so. I think so. Yeah. I think the fact that he was able to revert himself back all the way to that moment, but again, they're kind of breaking their own rules, over and over again. And I'm not sure if it's necessarily a bad thing, because it's like we are kind of in this sort of very artsy fartsy, we really can't explain what's happening, just go with us kind of vibes. But the time slipping, because we were just talking about and this is probably why we're confused, because originally it felt like the time slipping was Loki is time slipping through time. There's never 2 Lokis. It's always just him time slipping. But now it feels like that's not the case. But then at that moment, of course, we barely saw one frame of that final thing in the end of episode 5. But he time slipped to that moment before, so technically there should be another Loki there, right?
Yes.
So I know
assuming where. Yeah, I don't. Come to think of it, I don't know what that exact moment is.
Right. Because it looked like a frame, like a remade frame from episode 4, but
yes, that was
maybe
my
from
assumption,
a different angle. So yeah,
maybe Loki's not in the room. I don't know.
It was the moment. I think it was the moment right as Victor Timely was about to walk out. So it's he's gonna be like, no, don't do it, kind of thing. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go instead kind of thing. Put me out there. Because he's a god and he's like able to, because I think actually, and this is a little bit of a spoiler alert if you're not watching trailers, but like in one of the trailers, it's shown that like Loki is walking across what looks like where Victor Timely was supposed to go, but without a suit on, which is curious. So I will tell you like one of probably the wildest theory that I had. Because it felt like it was kind of a thing that got dropped potentially. You know, when they were like, "Well, we need to, in order to get access, we have to reset the system so we can reset Miss Minutes."
Yep.
Which was also a really creepy moment. Oh my god,
yeah.
Oh my god, it was just so beautifully done. But yeah, they were talking about like, oh, well, we can't do that because I mean, like, then it's gonna allow like magic to be done in the TVA or whatever. Yeah. And he's just like, they're like, just do it. Because the reason why I say that is because there hasn't been a whole lot of magic done since then. I think that there was like a few things that happened, but nothing that like really of note. So what I was thinking in my head is like, okay, they said that because of what's gonna happen in episode 5, like the way that things are going to get fixed is going to be a little magic-y, I think. But then I thought in my head, I was like, oh my god, that whole drawer of
Infinity Stones.
Infinity Stones, yes. I was like, are they going to fucking like get like 10 like time stones and like turn back to, I don't know. I went to space with my crazy theories and I was completely wrong. Although I don't know, it still remains to be. I don't think it was. They're not using Infinity Stones, but I mean, in the sense of, going back to what you were saying about his time slipping and the nature of it, like what actually we still haven't gotten there yet as to what was the root cause, because how we started this season with him time slipping. Am I crazy, or did they explain why the fuck he started doing that in the first place?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I think that the explanation that he was like,
roughly
the loom is overloading, like the actual like stability of the TVA is breaking. So
yeah.
I think that was his like, maybe that was his like explanation of why it's happening.
Well, and yeah, I mean, but I guess then you have to ask the question: then why isn't everybody time slipping? You know, why is it just Loki, and why just this Loki and not Sylvie also? Or is she doing it too, and we just don't realize? Well,
something that I didn't think about until just now when you were talking about them rebooting the system.
Oh,
Maybe when they rebooted the system, that was because now magic is able to exist at the TVA. Maybe that's why we're able to have multiple Lokis there now.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
that is interesting. Actually,
I buy that
because, like, timeline-wise, I guess that would make sense that we haven't seen it until now.
Sure.
No, I asked about whether Victor Timely would be still a big part of things going forward.
Like useful.
But, to speak of another Kang variant, do we think He Who Remains has a contingency for them figuring out, or Loki figuring out, time slipping? And
well, I'm glad you brought that up, because in the opening of the episode, like, you know, he's by the opening of episode 5, he's like by himself all of a sudden, which is weird, running through the TVA.
Yeah, no one's there. Nobody's
there. That's weird. And then, like, we're kind of passing by, you hearing on the, you know, over the intercom. It's not, it didn't even sound like Miss Minutes, but maybe it is, or it just kind of sounds like generic lady. And it's like a code number.
Yeah, code 1229 or something.
Something like that. Yes. Yeah. And then, but
is
on
that
the
a comic
screen,
book? Does anyone know?
Probably.
But on the screen, like some of the screens, it was saying that it was like it's not a contingency plan, but it was a fail safe.
Fail safe.
Is what is what they called it. So somebody somebody built in a failsafe. And what is that failsafe? I wonder if they'll explain that. But what exactly is safe about what's happening? Like what does the failsafe do? Does it send everybody, all of the TVA people, back to their original timelines? Is that what the failsafe is? I wonder.
Possibly.
Yeah,
In that scene when Loki's alone, though, which I found odd, the loom had not exploded.
Right. Yeah, it was like pre-explosion. Or at least it looks like that. I would agree.
Yeah, like it's not gone.
Unless it has like double explosion, like
So,
explodes.
yeah,
and
but
then
I mean,
explodes
maybe
again.
maybe you're right, Daniel. Maybe He Who Remains, his contingency plan, if things blow up, is to reset where everybody came from, assuming that nobody is smart enough to figure out how to
Yeah, that's
go
a
and
pretty
collect
good.
them to.
That's a pretty good guess.
And then
just
you can
plop them
then you
back
can-
in there.
Yeah, and then you just restart the cycle of plucking them out again. And
Right, and it's possible that Loki, unknowingly, is doing his bidding.
Sure.
That would be a really, really
or
like,
this is the wrench in the plan. And
yeah, it could be that too. It really could. At this point, I am convinced of both because
I mean-
it would be a really sad and spooky end to the season if like he realizes like, oh my god, what have I done? I just put him back exactly
played
where
right
he
into his
wanted him
plans.
to.
Did you guys feel sad seeing Mobius / Don in
Oh,
his real life?
yeah.
That made me feel sad because he just kind of like, I don't
There was
know.
like such mixed vibes because like I could, you know, it's like, yeah, he's living out his life and he seems like happy enough, but like he's also got like family issues. But I mean, so does everybody else, I guess. But but he seemed genuinely really sad to leave, and it's like, oh my god, these poor
I
people.
mean, he loves his jet skis.
He does,
Yeah.
and his children. His fucking
Does he love him?
kids.
His kids seem terrible.
Yeah.
My
Yeah,
thought was
but
like,
they're
oh,
his
great,
kids.
let's get out of here.
Yeah. Yeesh. Woof.
All their
Let 'em
crap
clean up
all
their
over the
messes.
place. One of them's like lighting something on fire. It's like,
So funny.
I'm good.
Yeah. No thanks.
And I was half expecting Hunter B12 when we see her. She's a doctor in New York in 2012, and I was like,
Right.
oh great, she's gonna.
I know. I was like, I got so
Like, there's gonna
scared
be
when I saw
some-
2012. I was like, oh no.
Uh-oh.
She's gonna get Chitari'd.
Yeah, that was wild to see Casey / Frank escaping Alcatraz in the 60s.
So
that was
that
fun and random.
so random because nobody, I don't think anybody out there have been like, yep, saw that coming. There's just no way.
Yeah.
Well, and then Pasadena, 1994. Miss Marvel was in Los Angeles in 94. Was it 94 or was it?
Oh, you know what? I think you're right. I think 94 is right.
I think it was 1994.
Oh, that is
So
curious.
I kind of those are probably just. I mean, knowing the Easter eggs, but kind of
Yeah.
plucking them from various
Well,
locales we've been to in the
Yeah.
years we were there.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I'm
kinda
trying to remember
wonder.
where she plopped because she plops in the Blockbuster parking lot.
Yeah, that was Los Angeles. I just couldn't remember if
Yeah.
it was 94. If it was
Well,
1994.
you bring up an interesting point, and this honestly, I'm probably reading into this way too much, and again, this what I do love about this show is the fact that it doesn't really rely on, I mean, to a very minor extent, does not rely on the external
No.
MCU,
Nope.
which is partly why I think it does so well. But he does say that his wife is gone.
Yeah, she left.
Doesn't say that she's dead, but I guess she could be. But I'd be curious to know who his wife is. I don't know if it's anybody special, but I something else that I was curious about too, because like it was very very specific to say that all of these were branched timelines. I don't think any of them were actually on the real timeline, right? All
They
the
weren't.
ones we
They were
went
all
to?
branched.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. What made them branched? And was it something that they did? Like, is this Mobius, like, was he ever supposed to be a, jet ski salesman? Like, or is that just something that he's like, he followed his dream and therefore the timeline branched or something? Because he was always
I just
supposed
thought
to be
that they
this
were
guy.
branched specifically because, I mean, they wouldn't be able to be on the sacred timeline, right? Given that they have been at the TVA.
That they were branched
Well,
when they
now-
were taken, because I thought, and maybe it's just because our understanding has changed on the new rules that have been introduced, but like, remember,
Because we were
I
told
think
that
they
all
all
the
said they
TVA
had a
members
life
are
on the timeline. Like,
Yes.
that's been said several times. They had a life on the timeline, referring to the sacred timeline. So
yes,
I think
but they
you're
were
right.
all
Maybe
pruned.
Alyssa, when they were pulled, they were branched, but
Branched.
then those branches were clipped,
assumedly.
But now,
Yeah.
now that the loom has exploded, or part of the contingency is for those branches to be reactivated, if
to exist.
to I don't.
Yeah.
But that's my point. I'm just like,
I need a doctor.
if the
Help.
if
Help.
the timeline bombing didn't exist, which is what's happening right now.
Yeah.
We are seeing whatever that choice that they made that was different from the timeline that we know, the sacred timeline. We're experiencing what would have happened had they just kept on living on whatever that was. So I'm trying to figure out, like, what was that choice that was made that created this branched timeline for all of these characters.
All of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And why does that make these guys special? Or is it just like random happenstance that that all of them have been put together in this situation? But yeah, I do love the idea that, because it does feel very artsy fartsy and like
Fartsy.
yeah, like an A24 movie, you know what I mean? Just like full of arts and farts.
As Martin Scorsese would say, this is cinema.
Yeah, this is cinema. No, he wouldn't say that about this.
No.
He's like, it's Marvel. I hate it.
He'd say this is a theme park.
Yeah, right, correct. I don't care how good it is. But the fact that when he's time slipping, they ask questions like, why are you time slipping to these particular moments with these particular people? And it's because they're special to you. You know what I mean? It's like they're your friends.
Well, and then the idea of their collective aura being a timestamp or a compass of sort,
Yeah, it's
It doesn't
fascinating.
make any sense science-wise, but in a science fiction way, you're like, yes, I love that.
Yeah,
and
like
I
I'm
get it.
grasping it. I just wouldn't know how to explain it to somebody else.
Yeah, and they don't try, which is good.
It's like, great.
Yeah.
Their collective aura is a
Sure.
marker. Great.
Okay.
Great.
Sure.
Moving
But-
moving on. Yeah.
But then at the very end of it all, like having that all be hilariously, it might have been moot anyways, because he was just guessing, because he doesn't know what the fuck. He's just a science fiction writer, so he's just like, yeah, okay, it's this. And then when we got to the end of the episode, they were gonna like put that all into action and everything spaghettified, so he didn't even get a chance. And so what? And then what he did. Like, he did it himself, like time slipping back in time. He didn't need their temporal aura to, figure out how to do it. He just needed to learn how to control it. So yeah, who's to say whether or not Obi's plan would have worked anyways? Which I kind of love. These last few episodes have been, so mind flippy, because we really think we're going towards a goal, and then it turns on a dime. Very, very fun.
And I do have to give a special shout out to the visual effects team on this show, and
It was
particularly
rad.
Great.
this last
It looks
episode
great.
with all the spaghettifying and the scene when Sylvie's sitting on the couch. And
I'm
Yeah,
so glad
that
you
that
brought
scene
that up.
was
Just starts,
amazing looking. Yeah, with the record and
deteriorate.
everything.
And
You could tell that they were showing off at this point.
Well, and it's very surreal, but also has that doom of Infinity War.
Yeah.
Very similar visually. And
They might as well have just put it at the bottom of the frame for your consideration, you know?
Well, the idea as well, like, I love that they went with the imagery of it all kind of like unraveling or spaghettifying, we keep saying, but like, because that feels different than the blip.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the blip, they are all literally just like snapped out of existence.
And
Like,
dusted.
and they go away. This, like, it coincides with the way that the loom works and like how the loom looks and how all of the different branches on the timeline, like it all,
they're strands.
just like everything is unraveling.
And Loki grabbing for each strand and then
Oh
hearing
my gosh.
a voice.
And trying to
when he-
pull it.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah, he's like, no, please don't take my friends away. It's so sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it does make you really, just think about, like, because obviously there's an inspiration behind their depiction of all this, like.
Well, yeah, a loom.
like,
It's the very idea of a loom.
a loom.
Yeah, and I think that because we always talk about like the fabric of space,
Time continuum, and yeah, they're
certain
dealing
theory.
with a literal loom that if they are able to repair it, can handle more timeline strands.
Yeah, and now we're all being split up into our own individual strands, whatever that is.
And I think it's a really beautiful way to illustrate it, as confusing as this show can get with all of the babble.
Yes.
The idea of a loom processing strands of the space-time continuum is a really easy way to kind of illustrate what the problem is. And
Right, because your brain is like, okay, I understand that. I've
Yeah.
seen the way that a fabric loom works and weaves
Right.
together.
The fabric of time and space.
also, this doesn't portend good things for the coming saga that we know is coming at some point.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah, it's coming. It's just we don't know who
We don't know
will
who
be
or
at the helm.
Yeah.
But this is just but a taste of kind of the devastation that's going to be unleashed, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, my God, I keep on wondering, like, because these characters always go through these like very universe altering experiences, and you're like, how in the world are they going to top that? Like, and what's interesting too is that, like, but it is a testament to the writing, though, because if you go back to something, and I don't want to harp on this too much, but if you go back to, oh God, the movie with all too many principal characters, help me out.
The movie with too many principles.
Not the Elementals. What are they called? The
Eternals.
Eternals. Thank you. My God. Like that. It does kind of feel like what bigger situation than that could there be out there? But I remember not caring about it, But like I like this seems infinitely like a much bigger deal than what happened on that, because it's literally the fabric of space and time. But it's a smaller cast, and we care about them so much that it matters.
It boils down to you've taken something cataclysmic and
it's
made it
difficult.
very
I've thought about
personal.
that. I've thought about that movie a lot, and
Eternals.
I think that it could have. I think that it could have benefited from being a Disney Plus series.
Oh yeah. I know we've mentioned that before. Yeah,
because
you're
they could have
absolutely right.
taken the time with
To
those
make us
characters
care.
to get to know them in the same way that we know the Loki characters, right?
Totally, absolutely.
Because like Sylvie and Mobius and Casey and all of them, like we just met them last season.
Oh yeah, could you imagine? I was gonna think about like if this was like a movie or even a 2-part movie. You know what I mean? Like season 1 was episode 1, and then, or you know what I mean? Like 2 movies. And we were, well, I don't know. It just depends on the writing. But I mean, I was like, would we feel the same feelings for this particular Loki by the end of season 1, like having known what he just did? You know what I mean? Like only like seconds before.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and they really are kind of chasing the golden goose here. What, you know, the reason Infinity War and by extension Endgame worked with that giant cast in a way that the Eternals didn't necessarily was because you built up all of this story capital and emotional capital with
10
these
years
characters,
of it.
that allowed for all of them to have their kind of small moments, but when they all disappear, it's devastating because
Devastating. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd earned that, and I think what they're still chasing here, but as you just said, what I think Loki's done well is re-upping the very personal stakes to then make the larger story more impactful. And
it does feel like we're because I think when we started this season, I wasn't sure if we were still on a show about Loki, even though like we were always centralized around him. It still felt like, you know, the issue was about the TVA. Is like we could change the title of the show to be like, you know, the TVA Adventures.
Great
but,
title. Yeah.
Yeah. Work in progress. But yeah, we are bringing it it's very clear that this is his show. Like we are like, even though it is a like universe, time space fabric problem, that it is very much the reason it is his issue. It's his emotional journey that we're going on.
well, and I think we'll maybe save the discussion for this question for the finale, but just to keep in the back of your minds, what would be or will be Loki's role in combating Kang going forward? And
yeah.
so just, let's see. Let's wait for that question to be answered maybe next week. But
yeah, right.
But
for sure.
I've been thinking about that a lot. It's like, does Loki come back to the forefront of an Avengers-style saga, but on the right side of history this time? But
what an interesting thought. I never even thought about, like, does he find his way back to the sacred timeline to help out with whatever?
Or do others find their way to him?
Yeah.
You know, by accident or otherwise, you know.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Because it's
that
rumored,
is so interesting.
It's rumored Deadpool is going to be a TVA time-hopping adventure.
Oh,
TVA specifically mentioned. So
Sure.
well,
perhaps we
yeah,
start
you're. I think that there was
pulling
a clue,
everybody together.
There was a clue in the picture, like the very few pictures that we've seen of them. What looks like Wolverine and him are fighting in the void, with like a giant fox sign that was pruned or something.
I think clarity is finally, or at least direction is coming. But,
One can only hope and dream. Yeah,
When we'll actually be getting that clarity is
remains to be seen.
or who will be involved.
Yeah. So that was the penultimate. How are they going to wrap this up in one episode? I mean, I feel like it would be pretty. There's the easy way, like that could take like 15 minutes, but I don't know about easy.
I mean, Godspeed. I don't know.
Yeah, truly.
not a clue.
And where they'll leave it, you know, like the state of the TVA, the state of all the characters. Like, are they inevitably resetting the TVA? And
and listening to an interview that the creators and writers gave, they talked about how originally Loki season 2 was going to feature this universal war with all of the Kangs, but they thought, paraphrasing, but they said just saying that out loud felt like too much too quickly.
Good.
I'm so glad that
I'm glad
somebody
there was-
has a sane mind and on that team, because could be good. Like, and Star Wars does this too. Unfortunately, we fall victim to the need and want
Too much.
to give us something. They're like, oh, the fans are gonna want to see this. This is gonna really pull them in. Because that is something that I would love to see. Like, I do want to see, how the king thing looked or whatever. But like at the same time, it's it's not necessary. You really do have to understand, or you have to have somebody on the team that knows like what is actually important to the overall arc of our character. Like, does he need to see that?
And the director and writers even said, like, a universal Kang war would not have been earned up until this point. I was like, thank you. Like,
Yes.
we're not
correct.
there yet. Like,
I mean,
and also
sure.
you did
Bring
yourselves
it
a favor.
eventually.
You did yourselves a favor of not digging perhaps a bigger hole than you may otherwise be able to climb out of.
That is also fair
considering
too.
current events.
Yes. If things change.
Just maybe we can clip it at Loki, but
Yeah, and who knows? That could be a way to that could be a way to fix it in the future. You know what I
Maybe.
mean?
Yeah, I mean,
where they show
maybe.
other versions of Kang fighting each other, and they don't quite look the same.
maybe they look like John Boyega
Who knows? Who knows?
or Mahershala Ali or someone.
Sure.
So we've got the same directors and writer for the last episode, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead.
And they did the last 2 episodes too.
Yes, there was Catherine Blair also wrote episode 4 with Eric Martin.
Yeah, man.
But this last, so it'll be directed by Justin and Aaron and written by Eric Martin.
Cool.
And wow, it's just been so fun. The whole season has been so fun. I'm sad it's over. One more episode.
I have a friend who will remain nameless. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but he kind of like swore himself off of Marvel, sadly, because he's just like, it just makes me too sad because I love it so much and it's like not going where I want. I like text him after last night. I was just like, dude, like, if anything, like just go
watch
back
this
and
show.
watch Loki. I know how much you loved the first season of Loki. Like, you are going to freaking
Watch season
love
2.
this.
Yeah.
Holy balls. Yeah. This is a thrilling, fun ride that I'm laughing and like getting emotional from. It's doing all the right things.
Agreed.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've
anything-
got we've got the Loki finale next week, and then the Marvels.
Oh my God, the
Marvels?
Marvels.
Step.
I'm so nervous about it. I hope it's good. I want it to be good so bad. I really do. I will say that the more recent trailers have been, I think, a little more hopeful than like the first couple, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go and have a fun time. That's where I am
Yeah.
in life. I don't.
And then you might burn your costume after the movie's over. We'll see.
I mean, I won't because
You paid good money for that shit.
well, and it's currently still making me money.
Yeah, it did that too, which is great. We love.
But yeah, no, I'm excited. We get to go see. Remember a couple
Extreme
years
Marvel.
ago when we were like, the world was down and
Yes.
we didn't know if we were ever going to get to see a Marvel or a Star Wars movie in theaters ever again. So
It was
I
really
feel that
exciting.
same way
Remember when we all
again
went-
because this damn
Remember-
strike.
when we all went and saw Black Widow together. That was.
Oh,
I think
we
that was the first Marvel movie back. And
Yep, it
Yeah.
was.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
What a
was
magical moment.
wild.
We were thirsty.
Yeah. So whatever
All right.
happens, we're going to be okay.
Yeah. Do we have? These were two very thick episodes, and I know we kind of squeezed a lot. But is there anything else that we? I'm sure we've left out some things, but what do you have anything else you guys want to add?
No, I think I said my stuff.
I do.
I mean,
but
we could keep talking about it. As always, we could always keep talking. But
yeah, I do,
Yes.
and I think it's going to be answered in the first 5 minutes of next week. So
I do too.
Potentially.
So I'm gonna hold on to it.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
All right. Well, that was it then. That was episodes 4 and 5 of Loki season 2. We'll be back
We did it.
next week for the finale.
Oh my gosh.
And hope you're all doing well, hanging in there.
Make sure to like and subscribe and comment below.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. All right. This is Inside the Tauntaun. I'm Alyssa Simmons.
And I'm Daniel Dawson.
And I'm Dino.
May the force be with you.
Always.
Inside the Tauntaun podcast. Please like and subscribe.